You're watching this video right now. It's not a coincidence. It's a calling. You are not ordinary. You are one of the ones God handpicked to hear this message. He led you here for a reason. This is your confirmation. Something divine is about to take place in your life. Something you didn't even know to ask for. A shift is coming that will change everything. You thought you were forgotten, but heaven has had you on the list all along. God is about to blow your mind with a blessing you didn't pray for, but desperately needed. Get ready. Your life is about to make a dramatic turn for the better. If you believe this word is for you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Together, let's spread this divine hope to every heart that needs it. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, and it's bigger than you imagine. There are moments in life when you pray and wait. You plead with God, hoping He'll show up. But then there are moments that shift your life when God does something so unexpected, so beyond your thinking, that you can only say, I didn't even pray for this, but God did it anyway. That's the kind of moment you're walking into. You see, God is not limited to what we ask. He's not restricted to what we can put into words. There are things your spirit longed for, but you didn't know how to speak it. There are needs buried so deep in your heart, even you forgot about them. But God didn't. He remembered. He saw. He planned. And He's about to show up and blow your mind. Sometimes we ask for the strength to survive, but God is planning for us to thrive. You're just trying to get through the storm, and God is already preparing the rainbow. That's how good He is. That's how much He loves you. He doesn't wait for you to beg. He doesn't bless based on your performance. He blesses out of His abundance, His mercy, and His perfect timing. You may have looked at your life and thought, this is all I'll ever have. You settled. You lowered your expectations. You stopped dreaming as big as you once did. But God hasn't stopped dreaming for you. He hasn't forgotten the future He designed. And now the shift is coming, not because you prayed hard enough, not because you were perfect, but because He's just that faithful. There were nights you cried yourself to sleep. You never said a word to anyone, but heaven recorded every tear. There were days you smiled on the outside, but were breaking on the inside. God saw it all. And now He's about to respond to the tears you never even spoke out loud. That silent pain was not wasted. It was a seed, and the harvest is coming. You ask God for help, but He's about to send healing. You ask for peace. He's about to release favor. You prayed for just enough, and He's about to send overflow. This next season of your life is going to be marked by the more than enough blessing. The kind that you didn't request, but you deeply needed. God has been working behind the scenes. He's been orchestrating people, places, opportunities, all for your good. And just when you thought He forgot, He's going to show you He remembered everything. Even the things you let go of, the dreams you buried, the joy you thought you'd never feel again, He's about to resurrect it all. What's coming is going to be so personal, so specific that you'll know it could only be from God. It won't be random. It won't be generic. It'll be tailor-made for you. A divine signature written across the chapter of your life. Don't be surprised when doors open that you didn't knock on. Don't be confused when blessings show up that you didn't chase. This is what happens when you stay faithful. When you keep doing the right thing even when nothing's changing. God rewards those quiet seasons of obedience. He honors the tears no one else saw. And now he's preparing a reward so big, it'll make you forget the pain. You might have thought, God, I didn't ask for this. But he did it anyway, because he loves to exceed expectations. Because he's not just a God of answers, he's the God of abundance. He's not just solving your problems, he's rewriting your future. The blessing that's coming will not just fill your hands, it'll overflow into the lives of others. People around you will be blessed because of what God does for you. They'll see the hand of God on you and say, that had to be God. No person could have made that happen. So don't shrink your hope. Don't limit what God can do to what you know to pray. His thoughts are higher. His ways are better. You're stepping into a season where things will happen fast, suddenly, unexpectedly, miraculously. And all you'll be able to say is, I didn't even pray for this, but God did it anyway. Hold on, stay faithful, and watch how God shows up, not just in what you asked for, but in what you never imagined. Because what's next is going to be more than a blessing. It's going to be a testimony. There are times in life when we go to God with a heart full of needs. We pray, we ask, we cry out for help. We bring Him our worries, our struggles, our desires. And while there is nothing wrong with asking, God welcomes it. What we sometimes forget is that God's blessings are not limited to our request. He is not confined to the boundaries of what we think we need. He's not sitting in heaven waiting for us to say the right words before He moves. No, His blessings go far beyond what we ask for, what we think we deserve, and what we can even imagine. You may have been praying for just enough to get by, just enough strength to endure the season you're in. But God's looking at you and saying, I'm not just going to give you enough, I'm going to give you overflow. While you were asking for a door to open, God was building an entire house for you. You asked for a job, but He had a career path prepared. You asked for healing in one area, but He's working on restoring your whole life. That's who He is. That's the nature of our God. He doesn't respond to us with just the minimum. He blesses according to His riches, not our requests. Sometimes we think small because we've been hurt big. Disappointments shrink our prayers. Delays convince us to aim lower. We start settling in our faith, asking for what's safe, what feels reachable. But even when we ask small, God still thinks big. He doesn't adjust His plans to match our fear. He blesses according to His purpose, not our panic. You may be asking for a few drops of rain, but God is preparing to flood your life with favor. There are seasons where we don't even have the strength to ask anymore. We've been through so much that silence becomes our only prayer. We sit with God, no words, just tears, and yet He understands. He knows what we're not saying. He reads the language of a broken heart, and in those moments He steps in, not because we prayed perfectly, but because His love is perfect. He steps in with blessings we didn't request, answers we didn't expect, and miracles we didn't even think to pray for. You might be thinking about all the prayers you prayed that haven't been answered yet. You may feel forgotten, overlooked. But the truth is, while you've been waiting, God's been working. He's been aligning things behind the scenes. Some of the greatest blessings take the longest to prepare because they're not just answers, they're destiny shifts. They don't just affect your life, they affect generations to come. That's why it's taking time. But when it shows up, it'll be beyond anything you asked for. You'll look back and say, God, I didn't even pray for it this way, but you knew what I needed more than I did. The beauty of God's blessing is that it's not transactional. It's relational. He doesn't bless you because you did everything right. He blesses you because you belong to Him. You're His child. And just like a loving parent who surprises their child with something beautiful out of love, God does the same for you. He sees your heart. He sees the effort, the tears, the late nights you stayed faithful, even when you were tired. And because of that, He'll bless you in ways that make you realize it was never just about your request. It was always about His love. You've been faithful in the small things. You've served even when you were tired. You've smiled through tears. And now, without warning, blessings are going to show up in your life that will leave you speechless. Not because you earned them, but because God is just that good. He's going to bless you in such a way that it will silence every doubt, answer every question, and restore every broken piece. Sometimes we only expect God to move in the areas we've been focused on. But He often moves in the places we forgot, the areas we didn't even realize needed healing, the dreams we gave up on. You thought that door was closed forever. You thought that chapter was over. But God is about to bring it back full circle. He's about to do something in your life that will remind you He never forgot what He promised, even when you stopped asking for it. The truth is, your faithfulness has not gone unnoticed. Your prayers may have been quiet, but heaven heard them. Your tears may have been private, but God recorded every one. And now, the blessing that's coming won't just answer your last prayer. It'll answer the ones you forgot to pray. It'll remind you that God doesn't just meet needs, He exceeds them. So don't give up because it feels quiet. Don't stop believing because you think God hasn't moved. He's not just preparing what you ask for. He's preparing what you couldn't even imagine. That's the kind of God you serve. He goes above and beyond. He gives you more than you requested, earlier than you expected, and greater than you dreamed. What's coming your way won't just check off a prayer list. It'll rewrite your entire story. It'll lift you higher than where you were before the storm. It'll remind you that while you were focused on survival, God was planning your revival. And when it happens, you'll stand in awe and say, God, You didn't just give me what I asked for. You gave me more. You gave me better. You gave me exactly what I needed, even when I didn't know how to ask for it. That is the kind of blessing that's coming to you. Get ready, not because you asked for it perfectly, but because He loves you abundantly. There are moments in life when the pain runs so deep you can't even find the words to pray. You sit there in silence, heart heavy, eyes filled with tears, and all you can do is breathe through the weight of it. No long, eloquent prayer, no bold declarations, just silence, just tears. But can I tell you something? God hears that silence. He sees those tears. He understands the pain behind them, and He responds not just to your words, but to the cries your soul doesn't know how to express. And there are things you've walked through that no one else saw. Times you smiled in public, but broke down behind closed doors. You kept showing up for others while no one showed up for you. You carried burdens alone, waited in quiet desperation, and hoped someone, anyone, would notice. And maybe they didn't. Maybe people missed it. But God didn't. He noticed every single tear. And the most beautiful part, He wasn't just watching, He was collecting them. The Bible says He bottles up every tear. That means not one tear was wasted. Not one moment of sorrow was missed. Every tear you cried in secret, heaven recorded. Sometimes we think we need to have the perfect words, the right prayer, the correct posture for God to respond. But God is not moved by performance. He's moved by the heart. When your heart is broken and you come to Him raw and real, He moves with compassion. He doesn't need a script. He doesn't need a speech. He just wants you. And when all you can offer is a tear, He treats it like a treasure. There were nights you laid in bed and couldn't sleep. Your mind was racing. Your soul was tired. You felt like giving up. You didn't tell anyone. You didn't even say it out loud. But in those moments, the Spirit of God was closer than your next breath. He was whispering comfort into your pain. You may not have heard Him, but He was there, holding you, strengthening you, loving you back to life. Maybe you're still in that place right now. Maybe you're still weeping in silence, wondering if anything will ever change. You're questioning, does anyone see me? Does anyone care? And God's answer is simple, I do. I've seen every single tear. And I'm about to move on your behalf. Because He doesn't just hear prayers, He hears hearts. He hears the cry you didn't post about, the plea you didn't text, the weeping you did when no one was around. And He's not just hearing, He's responding. Some of the most powerful moments of your life have been birthed out of silent suffering. You thought you were breaking down, but God was building you up. You thought it was the end, but it was the foundation for a new beginning. And now, God is about to reward what you endured in secret. The blessing is going to be so personal, so detailed, so perfectly timed that you'll know this wasn't random, this wasn't luck, this was God answering a tear you didn't even pray aloud. He understands the language of tears. When you weep, it touches His heart. When you ache, He aches with you. That's the beauty of His love. It's not distant. It's not cold. It's intimate, warm, and deeply personal. You're not just a name in the crowd to Him. You are His child. And like any loving parent, He doesn't ignore the pain of His children. He leans in, He responds, and He comforts like no one else can. You've been faithful in the valley. You didn't walk away even when you were discouraged. You stayed the course. And even when your mouth was silent, your tears became your intercession. Heaven took notice. And now it's harvest time. What you sowed in sorrow, you're going to reap in joy. What was planted in pain is about to blossom in purpose. And you're going to see with your own eyes that none of it was in vain. God is not late. He's precise. And when He shows up, it won't just be an answer, it will be a testimony. A moment so powerful, you'll say, only God could have done this. That's what's coming. Not just a blessing, not just a shift, but a divine encounter that answers every tear you cried and every question you whispered in the dark. Don't lose hope. Don't think the silence means God isn't moving. Silence is often the space where God does His greatest work. Seeds don't grow in the spotlight. They grow underground in the dark where no one sees. And that's what's been happening in your life. Quietly, faithfully, powerfully, God has been developing the breakthrough. And when it bursts forth, it will be beautiful and it will be obvious. It was God all along. He didn't need you to say the right thing. He just needed you to stay close. And you did. Through the pain, through the silence, through the waiting, you stayed. And now He's about to show you that your tears were not in vain. They were prayers. They were seeds. And the harvest is coming. You thought no one heard, but He did. You thought no one cared, but He cared deeply. You thought it was over, but God's just getting started. And when He moves, it'll be more than you imagined. Because the same God who saw your silent tears is the same God who's about to give you a very public testimony. Not to embarrass you, but to honor you, to lift you up, to show the world what He does for the ones who cry out, even without words. There are seasons in life where all you can do is survive. You're not thriving, you're not soaring. You're simply putting one foot in front of the other, doing what you can to make it through the day. You wake up tired, go to bed even more tired, and wonder if anything will ever change. You're not dreaming anymore. You're just trying to make it. You smile on the outside, but inside, you're way down. You're not chasing big things. You're just trying to breathe. And in that place, it's easy to think God has forgotten you. It's easy to believe that maybe you missed your moment or that life has passed you by. But here's the truth. Even when you were just surviving, God was still planning. You thought nothing was happening. You thought it was just a dry, silent season. But God was orchestrating something bigger than you imagined. While you were battling depression, He was aligning divine connections. While you were crying in silence, He was preparing open doors. While you were praying for the strength just to get through the day, He was working on the blessing that would change your entire life. You didn't see the evidence, but that didn't mean He wasn't working. God doesn't stop moving just because you're in survival mode. In fact, sometimes that's when He does His deepest work. Because when you don't have the strength to impress anybody, when you're too tired to pretend, when all you can do is hold on, God sees the purity in that kind of faith. It's not flashy, but it's real. And He honors real. You may have felt like you were stuck, going in circles, no progress, no clarity. But what you didn't know was that God wasn't just preparing the blessing, He was preparing you for the blessing. He was building character. He was strengthening your faith. He was teaching you how to trust Him when there's no spotlight, when there's no applause, when there's no confirmation. That's the kind of trust that moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that brings down walls. Maybe you look back now and wonder why you had to go through so much. Why the delay? Why the heartbreak? Why the confusion? The answer is simple: because your destiny is too great to be built on shaky ground. God had to let some things break so He could rebuild you stronger. He had to let some people walk away so the right ones could walk in. He had to let you hit rock bottom so you could find out He was the rock that never moved. The season of survival wasn't a waste. It was necessary. It taught you how to pray when you didn't feel like praying. It taught you how to worship through tears. It taught you how to depend on God for your next breath. And now, because of that foundation, you're ready for what's next. You didn't think you were being prepared, but you were. Every moment you didn't quit, every time you chose faith over fear, every silent cry, it all counted. Heaven saw it all. And now the planning is about to meet your reality. God is a master planner. He doesn't miss details. He doesn't forget promises. And what He's been preparing is so much greater than what you were asking for. While you were surviving in the wilderness, He was preparing your promised land. While you were tired from the battle, He was lining up the victory. While you were asking Him to fix one area, He was working on your entire life. You're not going to stay in survival mode forever. That season has an expiration date. And for you, it's coming sooner than you think. What's ahead will not look like what's behind. The days of barely making it are turning into days of overflow. The nights of weeping are being traded for mornings of joy. The silence is about to break with the sound of answered prayers. Don't let the enemy convince you that nothing is happening. Don't let discouragement lie to you. Just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Some of God's greatest miracles show up without warning. They don't come with an announcement. They come with power. And when it shows up, it's going to make sense. All the tears, all the waiting, all the fighting to hold on, it'll click. You'll see that the survival season wasn't your end. It was your preparation. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're right on schedule for the breakthrough God planned before you were even born. You were walking through shadows, but God was planning the spotlight. You were just trying to breathe, and God was planning for you to soar. So don't quit. Don't give up now. You didn't come this far just to come this far. He didn't survive all that pain, all those lonely nights, just to remain in the same place. God didn't bring you through the fire just to leave you in the ashes. No, He's about to bring beauty out of your brokenness. He's about to turn survival into revival. There's a reason you're still standing. There's a reason the enemy couldn't take you out. God's hand has been on your life the whole time, even when you couldn't see it, even when you doubted it. He never stopped planning. And now the time is coming where you're going to step into what He's prepared for you, not because you fought perfectly, but because you didn't give up. You were just surviving, but God was planning. And what's coming will be worth every tear, every trial, and every silent prayer. Get ready. The shift is closer than you think. Sometimes we come to God with a list of needs, wants, dreams, desires. We write down what we're hoping for: a job, a spouse, a healing, a breakthrough. And while it's beautiful to come before God with faith and expectancy, what we often forget is that our list is limited, but God's plan is limitless. We pray based on what we can see, what we can imagine, what we think is possible. But God, He's operating on a whole different level. His plan goes beyond our checklist. His vision stretches far past the borders of our understanding. He's not just looking at what you want. He's looking at what you're called to become. You might be praying for relief, but God is planning a full recovery. You're asking for a door to open, and He's building you an entire future. You're praying for enough to get by, but He's planning for you to walk in overflow. Sometimes we get so caught up in the details of what we want right now that we forget God is thinking long-term, eternal, generational. He's not just trying to answer your prayer. He's trying to elevate your purpose. Maybe you've been asking God for something specific. You've been consistent, you've cried, fasted, believed, waited, and nothing seems to be happening. The silence is discouraging. The delay feels like denial. But what if the delay is because what you're asking for is too small compared to what God is planning to give you? What if your request is based on survival and God's plan is rooted in destiny? What if He's not saying no, He's just saying, wait, I've got something better? You see, our prayer list often reflects where we are, but God's plan reflects where He's taking us. We pray from a place of pain, from a place of need, but God plans from a place of promise. You may be asking for healing in one area of your life, and God's saying, that's just the beginning. I want to make you whole. You may be asking for a better job, and God's planning a calling. You may be praying to get out of debt, but God is preparing you to be a lender and a blessing to others. It's not that your list is wrong, it's just incomplete. It's the starting point, not the destination. God is not limited to your request. He sees what you don't. He knows what's coming around the corner. And He's preparing you not just for what you ask for, but for what you'll need to carry the weight of the next season. You think you're praying for a blessing, but God is preparing you for a legacy. There are things you didn't write down, desires you didn't even know you had, gifts inside you that you haven't yet discovered. And God is working all of it into His plan. He's connecting the dots in ways that don't make sense now, but will make perfect sense later. He's taking your pain, your past, your mistakes, your missed opportunities, and He's weaving them together into something beautiful. That's why it's taken time. That's why the answer hasn't come the way you expected, because His plan is bigger, wider, deeper than anything you put on that list. Sometimes we think we're being overlooked. We think, God, did you forget what I asked for? But God hasn't forgotten. He's not ignoring your list. He's expanding it. He's upgrading it. He's adding to it blessings you didn't think to ask for, doors you didn't know to knock on, miracles you didn't even dare to dream about. He's not trying to frustrate you. He's trying to stretch your faith. Because if He gave you everything you asked for, exactly how you asked, you'd miss the bigger picture. You may have been praying for years for something that still hasn't happened. And you've started to wonder if maybe your prayers were wrong, but maybe they weren't wrong, they were just incomplete. They were the starting line, not the finish line. And now you're entering a season where God is going to show you the fullness of what He's been preparing. He's going to answer prayers you forgot you even prayed. He's going to open doors that weren't on your radar. He's going to bless you in ways that make you realize His plan was never to simply check off your list. It was to exceed it entirely. That's the kind of God He is. He's not just a provider. He's an oversupplier. He doesn't just give you peace. He gives you peace that surpasses all understanding. He doesn't just give you joy. He gives you joy unspeakable. He doesn't just heal you. He restores everything the enemy tried to steal. You're not dealing with a God who does just enough. You're walking with a God of more than enough. So take heart if your list is still unanswered. Don't get discouraged if your prayers haven't been fulfilled the way you thought they would be. Just because it doesn't look like what you expected doesn't mean it's not part of the plan. God is too wise to be early and too loving to be late. And when the plan finally unfolds, you'll see that He didn't deny your list. He just had something far better in mind. When that day comes, and it will come, you won't look back with regret. You'll look back with awe. You'll say, Lord, I was asking for what I thought I needed, but You gave me what I never even knew to ask for. Your plan was so much bigger than my prayer list. And that moment will make every wait, every tear, every unanswered prayer worth it, because you'll see it clearly. God wasn't ignoring you. He was preparing you. And His plan, it was always better, always bigger, always perfect. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is slowed down. Your prayers seem unanswered. Your dreams feel distant. You wake up each day wondering when something is finally going to shift. You've done everything you know how to do. Prayed, fasted, believed, stayed faithful, and still you find yourself in the in-between, waiting for God to move. But what you don't realize is that while you've been waiting, heaven has been working. While you've been wondering, God has been planning. And what's coming next isn't just a breakthrough, it's a divine surprise. God is the master of sudden blessings. He's the God who specializes in showing up when you least expect it. Just when you think nothing is happening, He moves. Just when you've made peace with where you are, He sends a shift that reminds you He was working all along. That's how divine surprises happen. Not on your schedule, not according to your outline, but in His perfect divine timing. And when He does it, it's always worth the wait. Some blessings you see coming. You pray for them, prepare for them, and wait expectantly. But others come unannounced. They show up in a phone call, a knock on the door, a sudden yes where there had been a long string of no's. These are the blessings that remind you God isn't limited to your strategy. He's not bound by your expectations. He has ways to bless you that don't even make sense to your natural mind. There are things you stopped praying for, not because you stopped believing, but because you were tired. You got weary. You figured maybe it wasn't meant to be. But what you didn't know was that heaven never forgot. God wrote it down. He remembered every tear, every whispered prayer, every quiet moment where you asked Him, God, are you listening? He was. And now He's about to answer in a way that you didn't see coming. You thought the door was closed for good. You thought the opportunity had passed. But God has a way of revisiting what felt final. He can open doors no man can shut. He can resurrect dead dreams, restore broken timelines, and reignite what life tried to put out. What's coming isn't going to be something you worked your way into. It's going to be something God gifted you with. Something so perfect, so personal, that you'll know without a doubt, this wasn't my doing. This was all God. There's a reason you couldn't make it happen on your own. There's a reason every door you tried to open stayed locked. It's because the blessing had to come from Him and Him alone. That way, when it shows up, nobody gets the credit but God. Not your connections, not your efforts, not your plans, just His divine favor. He wants the testimony to point back to Him. Because when it does, it carries weight. It carries impact. It builds faith in others who are still waiting. Sometimes we get so focused on what's not happening that we miss what God is doing underneath the surface. You're looking for something big and loud, but God is often moving quietly. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but something is shifting. A phone call is being made, a door is being prepared, someone's heart is being softened, someone is being positioned to favor you, and you don't even know it yet. That's the nature of a divine surprise. It sneaks up on you, but it's been in the works all along. You've been faithful in the quiet season. You kept showing up, you kept trusting. You didn't let go, even when everything in you wanted to. And God saw that. He saw how you chose hope over despair, how you held on to faith, even with tired hands. And now it's your time. The tide is turning. The heavens are shifting. Divine surprises are on the way, and they're coming faster than you think. Get ready to be overwhelmed in the best way. Get ready for blessings that chase you down. Get ready for favor that you didn't apply for open doors you didn't knock on, for answered prayers that exceed what you imagined. God is about to show you that He didn't forget. He didn't overlook you. He was just preparing something bigger, something better, something that would remind you that His timing is always perfect. It won't be long before you're standing in a moment that makes you forget the years of waiting. One encounter, one opportunity, one blessing. Divinely orchestrated. That makes all the pain make sense. You won't just be blessed, you'll be marked by the blessing. It'll change you, elevate you, and position you for things you never thought were possible. Don't give up now. You're closer than you think. What you've been hoping for is on the horizon, but what's coming is even greater than what you hoped for. That's the surprise. That's the beauty of God's plan. He doesn't just meet expectations, He shatters them. And when He does, it'll leave you in awe. You'll look around and realize that while you were just trying to survive, God was preparing to blow your mind. While you were trying to figure it out, He had already worked it out. And what's coming? It's not just a blessing, it's a divine surprise, tailor-made for your heart, your journey, and your future. So lift your head, wipe your tears, take a deep breath. The delay wasn't denial. It was preparation. And now get ready, because divine surprises are on the way. And they're about to change everything. There's something powerful about faithfulness. Not the kind that's loud and noticed by everyone, but the kind that happens quietly, day after day when nobody's watching. Faithfulness when you're tired. Faithfulness when the answers haven't come. Faithfulness when you're not sure if what you're doing is even making a difference. It's in those quiet, unseen moments that heaven is paying the closest attention. Because while others may overlook you, God sees everything. And when you stay faithful, God doesn't just respond to your prayers, He moves even when you haven't asked. You may think your obedience is going unnoticed, but it's not. Every time you chose to do the right thing when it was hard, God saw it. Every time you kept walking in love, forgave when you could have held a grudge, gave when you barely had enough, trusted when you didn't feel anything, heaven noticed. You might not feel the reward right away, but God is not unjust. He never forgets faithfulness. And the moment you least expect it, He begins to move in ways you didn't even pray for. Sometimes you serve without thanks. You give without receiving. You stay loyal when others walk away. It feels like no one sees, and maybe people don't, but God does. And He keeps perfect records. When you keep showing up with a good attitude, when you keep praising Him in the middle of pain, when you keep honoring Him with your life, even though your circumstances haven't changed, that touches the heart of God in a way that nothing else does. And here's the miracle of it all. You don't always have to ask. When you stay faithful, God starts moving behind the scenes. He opens doors you never knocked on. He brings solutions you didn't even know you needed. He sends people into your life at the perfect moment, connects you to opportunities you weren't even looking for. That's the kind of God He is. He blesses obedience, not just public obedience, but the private kind. The kind where it's just you and Him, and you're still showing up when nobody claps, nobody notices, and nothing seems to change. Faithfulness is what turns ordinary days into divine setups. You may not feel spiritual every day. You may not have a mountaintop moment every morning. But when you stay the course, when you keep honoring God in the mundane, in the repetition, in the struggle, He starts setting up moments that will change your life. You see, God's blessings don't always arrive because you begged for them. Some of them come because you trusted Him when there was no reward in sight. Because you kept believing even when you had every reason to give up. That's when God says, now I can trust them with more. That's when He begins to elevate, to promote, to pour out favor you didn't even expect. You might think, but I haven't seen anything yet. I've been faithful for years. And I get it. Waiting can feel endless. But the harvest doesn't always come in the same season you sowed in. What you've been sowing in secret will be rewarded in the open. What you planted in tears, you're going to reap in joy. Don't let the delay make you believe it's not happening. God is setting it all up, and when it comes, it will come suddenly. And you stay faithful for no reason. You weren't patient for nothing. God saw every second of it. He saw when you resisted temptation. He saw when you chose peace over revenge. He saw when you prayed for others even though you needed a miracle yourself. And now, the blessings that are on the way won't require an explanation. They'll be undeniable. People will look at your life and say, that had to be God. Sometimes we think we have to beg God for every breakthrough, but God's nature is to reward faithfulness. You don't have to chase the blessing, just chase Him, and the blessing will chase you. That's what happens when you stay faithful. The blessing overtakes you. It finds you in the middle of your routine, in the ordinary places, in the middle of your obedience. And when it shows up, it will be exceedingly, abundantly above all that you could have asked or imagined. There's some things you stopped praying for, not because you didn't believe, but because you just got tired. But can I tell you something? Your faithfulness has been praying louder than your words ever could. Your consistency has become your intercession. And now God is responding, not to a new request, but to years of trusting Him, even in silence. The doors that are going to open, the healing that is going to come, the favor that's about to fall, it's not random. It's a reward for staying faithful. Not perfect, not flawless, but faithful. You didn't quit. You didn't walk away. You stayed planted, and now the fruit is on the way. Don't give up now. You're closer than you think. The blessing is already in motion. The shift has already begun, and it's going to show up in a way that leaves you speechless. You'll look back and realize that even when it felt like God was silent, He was watching every step. And when you were just trying to be faithful, He was planning how to bless you without you even asking. That's the kind of Father He is. Generous, attentive, gracious. And when you live a life that honors Him, when you stay faithful in the dark, He shines His light in your life in ways you never saw coming. So keep going. Keep trusting. Keep being faithful, because God is about to move without you even asking.